Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Live. I hope you are well. I have a very special guest joining us today, Rhonda Moret. Welcome to Wednesday Live.
Thank you, Shannon. So happy to be here. So happy to be here. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing really well. And it's a little later in the day for me than you because you're joining us from sunny California.
Sunny San Diego, to be exact. So
Oh.
actually, I have a beautiful view of the Pacific Ocean as we speak. A little overcast, but that typically burns off, and we have another picture perfect day in store for us. So
You're so wise. And every winter when I'm shoveling a walkway, I think, why don't I live in San Diego?
yeah, I
So,
mean, actually, we've lived several different places, and by far, this is a dream location. We're really, really fortunate to live here. So I don't take it for granted. Most definitely have the gratitude and thankfulness each and every day. So
absolutely. Oh my gosh. And
yeah,
normally you're on airplanes flying all over the place, but now you get to enjoy the beauty of your residence and do the important work that you do.
exactly. When it's usually vacation time rolls around, we struggle because again, just our weather here is so incredible. It's tough to find another location that we can go to that has the incredible weather that we enjoy here. So
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
I've been really pouring myself into being an advocate and an ally for all areas of diversity and inclusion with the intent to create environments of belonging in the different companies that I get to partner with.
Right.
And when I was looking for subject matter experts, I found you.
Mhm.
And you have two organizations. You have Elevated Diversity, and Elevate for Her.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
We actually launched Elevate for Her first because this is an area that I felt there was a lot of awareness being created in terms of some of the disparity, the gender disparity that we're seeing in the workplace.
Yeah.
And there's all these stats out there that are just horrible when we compare ourselves to our male counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to go a step beyond that. I mean, it's great to have awareness, but as women, what can we do? What can we do to prepare ourselves, to educate ourselves, to truly empower ourselves so
Yeah.
that we're ready to take those next steps? And allyship plays a huge role in it.
Yes.
So we've put together these programs that are really designed to help women with tactical strategies, things that you can implement as early as today
Yeah.
to start helping you identify those individuals within your organizations, within your community or your network. That's really going to help you take that step together. And I think as women, we always hear the phrase that it takes a village to raise a child. Well, sometimes it takes a village to help a woman get to where she wants to go. So,
Yeah, agreed. And that's one of the things I love about your approach is that you start with the science or the data, and that's where we'll start today. And then
mhm.
you identify like what are some of the missteps or the mistakes that people make unintentionally, but the things that we
Right.
might do that sabotage our own success. And then what can we do? So we get some tactical strategies and insights, actionable things that we can do, which
Right.
I personally love. So for those who are live, please write your comments and your questions in the chat or in the comment area, and then we'll be addressing those as we go through our session today. But I thought it'd be a great place for us to start, which is, the state of the state.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the reality of the situation with women in leadership.
Well, the reality, unfortunately, is that we're still incredibly far behind. We've got stats that tell us only 5% of the Fortune 500s are led by female CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we typically make 80 cents to every male dollar,
Mm-hmm.
and that we hold less than 20% of corporate board seats. So when you look at that as a reality, it's shocking.
Yeah.
Especially, I've got one child in college, and I've got another that we're looking for a college. She's a rising senior, And one of my questions is, as we're looking at different colleges, what's the male-female ratio?
Right.
9 times out of 10, there's more females that are attending college.
Yes.
So you have to really wonder, where did we go wrong? Which I think we probably all intuitively know where we went wrong. But more importantly, what steps can we do to revise that? I think one of the fortunate things that has occurred within the past few months with the social unrest, and you had alluded to this earlier, we also have elevated diversity that is concentrated on D&I efforts. But what we really need to do is make sure that those organizations that say, yes, we support women, we support the underrepresented, that we really hold their feet to the fire. I mean, we want them to go beyond just the hashtag, and take some action. And that's what we do each and every day. I was just on a call with a client earlier, is that they said, Rhonda, we want to make an impact. How can we make an impact? And that's music to my ears as a woman of color. I mean, like, oh my God, okay. So now we're getting somewhere. Now we're going to see some real movement, and it's long overdue, but incredibly well deserved. I mean, I think with the announcement yesterday with the VP pick, I think we're seeing a change here.
I do too.
And I love it.
Me too. I couldn't be more excited, because I think it's hard to be what you can't see. So now we're seeing women in these most prestigious roles, and we're late to the game as the US, but hey, better late than never. And I think to, leverage our strengths, identify what they are. I know that you're a researcher in that way too. Like, what are some of the qualities that in general women tend to manifest, and how do we embellish those and share those? And I also love what you're saying too about organizations that are really putting their money where their mouth is and making tangible progress. Like Cognizant is an organization that I'm hugely fond of. Same with Comcast. And they're funding these efforts. They're creating task forces just beyond, ERGs, employee resource groups, but also creating an environment of inclusion and belonging, which is the ultimate objective, I think.
Right. Well, because it should be the norm, right? Yeah. It shouldn't be, oh, look at this organization, what they're doing. It should be the norm across the board, because at least from my vantage point and many of my counterparts, I think what we're seeing now, and the reason why I'm feeling so hopeful, is that there's some validation. It's like, yes, we deserve to be at the table. We all know that we're just as competent.
Yes.
We've got the skill sets. So now with these things that are going on within our communities and our culture, I think people are women in particular, and minority groups are feeling like, okay, now I'm validated. It's not just in my head. The people are seeing that we are just as capable and just as deserving as those key roles within those organizations. So it's an exciting time for us.
It is. I was just on a call yesterday with a senior leader at Barclays, and I get the opportunity to partner with them. And she has many direct reports who are also senior leaders, and she's seeking coaching for them. And the way that she expressed her feedback was just so tangible and like thoughtful and specific. And, and she's retiring at the end of this year, which is unfortunate for the organization, but her goal is to make sure that the legacy of feedback and growth and, investment in people lives on. And I just was so blown away by the skillfulness of her leadership. And I thought, my gosh, we just need to have more leaders like her, or empower people. So kudos to Barclays for putting her in that role, and her to kind of be developing her successor. So what would you say are some of the, facts of the matter, or, the situations that we can get hung up in, even some of the setbacks or mistakes?
Well, I know. And I as a young professional years ago, I definitely fell into this trap. And it's the trap of, okay, I just need to prove myself to this organization, to my boss,
Yeah.
so that they realize that, yeah, I'm up to the task and I'm worthy of getting the promotion. So what did I do? I came in early, got there before the boss did, stayed late. Good night, boss. I'm still here working. And I did a damn good job. I proved myself over and over again.
Yeah.
But the point is that unless you're advocating for yourself or you have an ally who's advocating for you, quite often those efforts, that extra mile that you're running, isn't recognized, isn't appreciated, and there's probably a better way for you
Yeah.
to make sure that you are properly positioning yourself for that next role.
Yeah.
So
That, yeah.
we definitely say, hey, don't wait just to be for somebody to notice your hard work. You have to speak up and speak out, and you need to do
Mhm.
that often and frequently.
Excellent. I love that. And even recognizing that it's not just about working harder, to your point, there's work ethic is really important. There's all of these other
Mhm.
components to it that I actually think women are quite good at, like
Yeah,
that negotiation. Well, negotiation, I know you talk about, and I want to hear more about that, but the networking is where I was going.
right,
Networking and just like thinking about how to, like the way that we help other people, how do we use some of that
right,
knowledge and courage to help
right.
ourselves.
Well, and research shows us that women will go to bat time after time for someone else because
Yeah,
by our nature, what are we do? We're nurturers. We like to help. We
yeah,
like to support. That's our role.
right.
Um, whether it's something that's nurture or nature, that's up to debate. But typically, and obviously, we're speaking in generalities here. But
Sure.
typically, we love to be able to say, "Let me help you. Let me support you." So we're good at saying, "Yeah, Susie's been working hard. She's staying late, so on and so
Mhm.
forth." But we have a tough time stepping up to the place and said, yeah, you know what? I've been staying late and I worked over the weekend and I made sure that XYZ happened so that we won that account. We
Yeah.
struggle with that. And part of that is just that whole going back to how we were raised, where we don't want to appear too greedy or we don't want to appear too full of
Yeah.
ourselves, or
Mhm.
and that's the wrong approach because we know males do not think about that at all. That's not an area of weakness for most men. Again, speaking in very much in generalities. That's not
Yes.
an issue that our male counterparts struggle with, but women quite
Area
often.
of development, awareness, and then development, right? And to
Right,
support each other through that. So what would
right.
you say are some of the opportunities for women to further advance?
Well, one of them is just realizing that, hey, I do need an ally. I do
Mhm.
need to have others within the organization that will vouch for my work and vouch for my work ethic and my commitment to the organization. So I know years ago I spent probably a good 15 years in the golf industry. And I
Mhm.
was one of those heads down, and I delivered quality work. I delivered it on time. I worked harder than everybody else because, again, I felt like I had to prove myself. I was a minority female in a heavily male dominated industry. But
Yes.
during those years, I did not build up my network. I didn't look beyond the spreadsheets or the marketing plan. I just didn't do it. And
Yeah.
that hurts. So now I'm looking, okay, how can I really develop my support network? And how can I develop those relationships that are going to help me connect the dots and get to where I want to be? So I definitely encourage women to, even if they're within a great role, within a great organization, they feel like, oh, I can stay here forever.
Yeah.
set aside time to develop those allies outside of the organization, inside of the organization, and maintain those relationships and treat them like gold, because they are like gold, right?
They are. And how do you recommend people do that now? I think that that's a challenging one right now with with everything being remote. But
Right.
Are there some recommendations that you have about what we can do?
Right. Well, and you know what? That's one of the interesting things with our current paradigm, where again, I haven't spent as much time within those network forums, but now everything's via Zoom, so all I have to do is open up my laptop. So, for instance, there was a women's group that's consists of women within energy and the water industry.
Oh,
And they just had a happy hour. And it was great because we each got to go around, share a little bit about ourselves. And I felt like that was a great use of 45 minutes of,
yeah,
at the end of the day,
connecting.
just have some very casual dialogue, getting to know people, follow up on LinkedIn, and you've got a new person to connect with. And actually, I mean, I think it's easier, because how many of us go to these darn networking things? It's like, well, I'm not going to know anybody. I'm just going to
Yeah,
wander around. But I think the format, a networking format on Zoom, is could be even more productive, right?
yeah,
Because you've got a nice flow of information, and you can identify folks that you have some commonalities with, and there might be some synergies, and so I've been really enjoying those. There's been several that I've been participating with, and I just added as another to-do item on my project list each and every week. So it's been great.
that's a good tactical step, is like make it a to do.
Right.
And, your point about being in a male dominated industry like golf, and just, really proving yourself. And I know you're beloved by the PGA and so many individuals in that, environment, that you have just made it your business to like learn about them and invest in them. And what you're saying to us is, it's not just about doing great work. It's about, keeping your eye on the relationships, which is actually more fun anyway, in my opinion. I think it's so interesting to meet new people and
Right.
learn from them and share with them. So you
Right.
talk about some opportunities that we have as women,
Right.
like about negotiation and just speaking up. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, one of the stats that we share on an ongoing basis, because not because I like it, it's because it's so incredibly eye-opening, number one, and I think it very much speaks to where we are. But there's a stat that I read in Forbes, where it quotes that women initiate negotiations 4 times less often than our male counterparts. So what does that mean? It means that we don't initiate the better salary or negotiate the better salary. We don't ask for the plum project. We don't ask for the board sheet. We don't ask for the mentor or
Yeah.
the sponsor or the ally. So if we have issues stepping up to the plate, then we will always be 2, 3, 4, 5 steps behind our male counterparts. It just is what it is.
Right.
Because in business, we know that business is based on relationships, right? So how can we develop those relationships? How can we ask those individuals for help? And
Mhm.
for many people, it's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite quotes is Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, "Do one thing each day that scares you."
Yes.
And it's a practice that I've put into play. So whether it's sending an email out to someone who's a CEO of a huge Fortune 500 organization,
Right.
I force myself to do it. Whether it's picking up the phone and seeing if I can revive a deal that went south. I'm going to do it. It's not comfortable. I don't enjoy it. But as you practice that and you continue to make baby steps,
Mhm.
it makes it a lot easier, just like everything else in life, right? So
For
we
sure.
start small, we identify things. So even within some of our programs, we say, okay, you don't have to do something as grandiose as calling the CEO of a Fortune 500. But have you thought about taking an improv class? And it kind of scares you, but you just start small and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to take that improv class.
Yeah.
So there's several strategies that we recommend, that we teach, that really help women start feeling comfortable with those uncomfortable situations. And again, it's something that you develop, and just like all those other skills that we've developed over our careers and lifetime, we're able to develop it, and it's not scary.
And I love that commitment to every day do one thing that scares you. Do you document those anywhere, Rhonda, or is it just one of those?
I actually do. And we developed what we call our 10-day empowerment plan.
Okay.
And it's a 10-day planner, and it's full of great quotes from these incredible women. And then it also has a section in there where you do write down, okay, day one, I'm going to sign up for XYZ. And then you document what that is. And, if you're delivered to yourself, if you kept that commitment to yourself. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, that is really what's going on with me in this diversity initiative, because I'm not the expert. I'm not the person that's been doing this my whole life. So I am afraid of it. And I want to be really respectful. But what I'm saying to myself is, like, I don't have to be the subject matter expert. I really need to be the organizer or the catalyst or like the creator of the thing.
But you're the ally, though, right? Because you're in a position of power and influence, and you could share this message and share with others within your network. Hey, I stand behind this. I believe in this.
Yes.
And using that platform, it's incredible. We've got one of our speakers. He's actually a top MLB sports agent. He's listed in Forbes ranked, and he has an incredible story to where he used his platform to say, hey, there's some racism going on within the game, and we can't have this. So he stood up, he spoke out, and he ended up walking away. MLB has a zero tolerance policy that he was part of. And he utilized his platform. And again, as a person of color, that's what we need. We don't need any more of the people say, oh, that's too bad, I feel sorry, but just turn and look away. Let's confront it. Let's get it out in the open. Let's make it so that it's not such a difficult conversation, because that's how we were raised. Here are the things you don't talk about: politics, race, and religion. Well, you know what? It's time to start having those conversations, because again, coming from the other side of the equation, I don't have a problem talking about race at all. Who I am. So why would I have a problem talking about it? I love my background. I love sharing with people who I am and what makes me me.
Right.
So I applaud you for having this series and giving people a forum to share their thoughts and keeping this conversation alive.
Sure.
And kicking, so
absolutely.
Congratulations and kudos to you.
Thanks to you for joining me and all of the guests that I've had. And there's another female author and just like amazing human, Maya Angelou, who says, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better.
Right. I think I've heard of her once or twice. Yeah. I mean, she's incredible.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So much to be learned from her words.
Yes. The inspiration, like once you know better, like, okay, maybe you didn't know before. We know better. Now it's that activation. So that's what I'm loving about what you're saying too, about the like, take action, do something. So you also talk about how women have a hard time speaking up in meetings.
Well, again, that's been proven by study after study that women, or it starts as young as the classroom. So there's a study, and I just posted something on LinkedIn to where it notes that unless a little girl is positively sure she knows the right answer,
Yeah.
she doesn't raise her hand. A boy will just shoot his arm up in the air, not sure if he's got the right answer, but he wants to be validated. He wants to share. And
Yeah.
just having that as our foundation or where we came from, it perpetuates. So in our link, we say, hey, don't be that girl in the not raising her hand that you were in the classroom, in the boardroom. Raise your hand, even if it's wrong or you're just sharing, you're giving yourself a presence. You're making yourself seen and heard. And again, that's especially within any type of boardroom, it's all about collaboration and ideas. So we definitely encourage that as well.
Yeah, and you included this quote here from HBR, which is about 50% of professional women struggle with the confidence needed to speak up in high-level meetings. So it's that confidence and that understanding that you have something to contribute. And when you're saying the boardroom is the place for collaboration and discovery, that's where innovation ought to be ignited, right? Where you say something and it goes, oh, that just spurred this new thought in my head. But if you don't have the confidence to get it out there, you're really robbing the rest of the group from your wisdom, your perspective. It doesn't have to be right. It just needs to be said. And have you seen On the Basis of Sex?
No.
The Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie. It's so good.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say, when she's in that Harvard classroom, the only female, and the professor asks a question, and all of these hands go up, including hers, and the professor just keeps calling on everybody else, and she's, so finally she just gets her chance, and then somebody's, knocking her down. But it really pained me to watch that scene, because as dramatic as that scene is, you see it playing out so often still. And your encouragement to just speak up, raise your hand, say something, add your value.
Right. And that's also, and I think in one of our previous conversations, we talked about amplification and how allies can help, and women, we can help each other. So just by the sheer function of when a woman says something, quite often, or in many cases, it might be overlooked and the conversation is pinged to a different topic.
Sure.
But to bring back that point that Jessica was making by saying, oh, you know what? I think Jessica is on to something there. What if we did X, Y, Z? So just amplifying each other's voices is a huge way of not only sharing what could be a great idea or strategy, but also developing some unity between those women, right? Because again, it's all about those relationships in the workplace. How can we strengthen those relationships and have those allies that we know have our back, and conversely, we can have their back as well. So it makes it a very synergistic opportunity, and it makes it to be very trite, a win-win situation. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where I think confidence has a couple of different roles to play. One of the roles is to just speak up, but the other role is the confidence to support and what's the word where you said to make the voice amplify your other female colleagues, as opposed to viewing them as a threat. The confidence that that together we are stronger, and not just our women cohort, but all of us together. So I do think that could be a part in why some people have the perception that women are really hard on other women. And sometimes I think they are, but I think the root cause of that, in my experience, is insecurity.
Well, and I definitely have seen a humongous change, because I started my career more years ago than I care to share. But when I started, it was very much a fact of, okay, there's not going to be very many women who get a seat at the table. That's just how it was. And so we did not support each other. And there were several years where I felt like I don't want a female boss. I felt like I fared much better when I was reporting to a male, for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
But I've seen that change. And the beautiful thing is, I collaborate a lot with women from different industries, different roles. And I think it's incredible when I can pick up a phone and say, hey, this is what I'm working on. Is this of interest, or can you help me, or can you connect me? And there's a willing response. I mean, that to me, again, I know things are changing. I know that we're turning a corner, and it's just, it's exciting. It should be
Yeah.
exciting, and it gives me hope for I have two daughters, so
Yeah,
it's
me too.
going to be a different business paradigm when they start working. So
I sure hope so. Yeah, I have a daughter too, and I know what you mean, and I hope that we can be that kind of change. And I think, the news yesterday with our new VP candidate is an example of that. As as you can see, people want to say like you have no limits, you can do anything. But if you're not seeing women do anything, like be a pilot or be a surgeon or be a CEO or be a whatever, be a president, it's hard to, really view that as a reality. So I think that we are totally seeing a change, and I also agree with what you're saying. Like I'm a member of more women's leadership groups than pretty much any other ERG or group of people, and they're very supportive. And very much like, what do you need? How can I help? How can I be an ally for you? How can I promote this for you? So I have found it remarkable, and I think that's great. So what are some common missteps? Like, what are some things that we unintentionally do wrong?
Well, we talked about just having that head down mentality, but one of the others is not identifying individuals within the organization that can truly serve as your ally.
Yeah.
And those relationships that you have or can develop that you can truly leverage.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you use the word leverage, I'm going to leverage my relationship with the CEO.
Yeah.
It makes some women or individuals uncomfortable, but we're talking business. So how can we leverage? It's all about leverage, whether you're leveraging a deal or relationships. How can we utilize that to the best of our advantage? So we definitely encourage women to identify those individuals who they feel like would be good allies. And then again, coming back to where we might be uncomfortable, asking for their support, saying, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. Is this something that you can help support me on or guide me within? So it's coming back to that. You gotta ask.
I agree. And I think that leverage and lever visual or analogy is so spot on, because like the way I'm thinking about it almost from like a like a physics perspective, if I had something heavy and I needed to lift it and I used like a lever, like a wedge, right? I'd have to be really close to that thing in order to move it. But if I had the lever like 5 feet away and I was trying to lift that heavy object, you couldn't do it. It would be just completely a waste of time. So what I'm hearing you say is like, how do you leverage the relationships, be close enough so that could make the hard work easier, and to do something that you really couldn't do without the lever. Like you couldn't move that heavy object if you weren't trying to use something to help you with it. So I think that's great. Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's see.
You almost lost me with the physics. My bachelor's is in English, and it's like, oh no, she said physics. Where are we going, Shannon?
I have this visual in my mind that I don't know if I did a good job of explaining, but yeah, we were.
Yes. No, we did. It was
close. Yes, here we go. So here are some of the things that you shared. So you talked about how you don't have to be the hardest working person. Work ethic's important, but also work on your relationships. You talked about how leverage is not a dirty word, that it does not make you a conniver or manipulative or anything. And then you talked about the day-to-day responsibilities before your career's big picture. What is that?
Well, I think that goes back to the networking, right? So it should be just another task on your to-do list so that you're not so focused on the day-to-day minutia, but you've got a broad view of what you want to do. and you figured out some type of roadmap, and we know roadmaps often change, but some type of roadmap that's going to help you get to the next stop or the next destination.
Yeah.
So really identifying some of those longer term strategies and not getting so darn bogged down by the day to day.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's an asset and a liability, right? The asset is that we're just like so in it to win it. And we want to not just to win it for ourselves, but to do great work and to, fulfill responsibilities and
Right.
make progress. But like the liabilities, that sometimes that's like all we're thinking about. And
Right.
saying, well, what's the bigger picture here? If I was going to dial this out and scale out,
Right.
what vantage point would I have from a distance?
Right. And again, going back to my younger self, if I could tell my younger self anything, it's
Yeah.
form stronger bonds and relationships just outside of that small network. Because I had already proven myself to those guys. So who can I also expand that network out to? So that they can help me. And we know, and again, working in the golf industry, it's the 18-hole round of golf for the guys on Friday afternoon. And what was I doing? I was back at the office. I've got to get my marketing report done. That was a missed opportunity. So.
Yeah, for sure. And so for those who are hearing you right now and saying, well, I don't play golf. Do I need to play golf? I mean, that used to be like the primary question that would come up in women's leadership development programs. Like, do I need to learn to play golf? I mean, curious to hear your reaction to that. What are your thoughts?
Yes. One word. Yes. I mean, you got to be where those relationships are being developed. You just have to be.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you?
Yes.
Why wouldn't you do something that would help advance your career? And especially now, obviously, that's not as commonplace. But again, being really strategic with what your objectives are. I need to figure out, where I need to be in order to get to the next level. So yeah, it's a great game. It's a great way to spend time not only with business associates, but with family. I kind of sound like I'm still working or selling a golf product, don't I? But yeah, no, I
So you love the game. So or you have found a way to, be
leverage it.
successful in that game. I know some people find it frustrating, but I think to try, and if it's not your thing, then, I think I have found that I'll go to the golf lesson and then I'll go to the networking afterwards. Like I'll still go to the golf event, but I don't always play the full game. I like the game. I just find that I'm a deterrent to that.
But you might be, and so is Joe and Steve and
Yeah.
Ken. And I mean, I think again, we always think, oh my gosh, everybody's going to be so much better than I am.
Yes.
We've got to get out of that mindset. I think women have gotten out of the mindset of, okay, the guys are so much smarter than I am. No, they're not.
Yeah.
And no, they probably don't even play golf better than we do. So we need to get over.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah, challenging my thoughts. I love that.
Yeah.
So the last thing on this list, because you have given us so much quality insight here, is the failing to enlist allies on day one. You talked about that.
Yeah.
And women feel as if they must be fully prepared before making connections, which puts us behind the curve.
Right. So kind of going back to that ideal of, okay, I don't have all the answers, or maybe it's not accurate, but you gotta put yourself out there. Just take an action, put yourself out there, make yourself seen and heard. Because what does that tell others? It tells others that, hey, she's engaged. She wants to interact. She wants to be part of the solution. You can't be part of the solution if you're concerned, oh, I don't know if I have all the answers, or I'm not sure if I'm totally prepared.
Yes.
So day one, start identifying those folks that are the key players within an organization and make yourself known.
For sure. And I know that many of the clients that I've been supporting over the years have said things like, if they're not invited to the meeting, they are irritated at those who were having the meeting and didn't invite them. And I would just challenge them to say, well, what might you do to enable you to get the invite, or what might be a reason why you weren't included? And it could just be an oversight, or it could be because you're not contributing. Maybe you're not adding value, or maybe it's just that they're being unfair. I mean, that's a realistic option as well. But I just think before we go and blame people, let's say, like, what can I do to be a contributor? And what you're saying is, like, how can I prioritize relationships and say, I'm showing up and I'm bringing it, right? And so that people are like, well, it'd be crazy not to invite her because she's always got so many ideas, or she's always so research-based, or whatever it is that your giftedness is.
Right. Because if you're not speaking up, they're not going to invite you because you're always taking great notes, right?
Yeah.
And so often, the women's got their heads down and taking all the notes, and I definitely take copious notes, but that goes back to my English background. But no, you have to find a way to contribute, and you're absolutely right. Find out why you weren't, and again, what happens? It causes you to have to ask that question.
Yeah.
Okay, do you think I could be included in future meetings? Or I'd like to learn more. I'd like to be more involved. So asking those questions that kind of make you uncomfortable, but you'll never know. And you'll go back to your cubicle or your office and you'll feel bad or be upset, but that obviously doesn't advance your cause. So
totally. So before we get into some key strategies, which I know you've got some great ones, we've got a question here. Thank you for that great discussion. How have you dealt with mean girls? So we're talking about how things are changing, but sometimes there's a mean girl scenario.
Right. And I think, again, this is another situation where you just have to address it head on, and have a conversation with that individual. And it's interesting because I learned that lesson from a friend of mine who was actually in the military.
Oh.
And he was high ranking in the military, was a student of leadership. And I said, I've got this problem. What do I do? He said, you have to ask her. You have to go in, have a conversation with her and figure it out, because at the time I thought, okay, do I talk to my boss, or who do I go to HR? And no, have that conversation, step up to the plate, because quite often those mean girls, they pry on those individuals that they know may not have enough self-confidence or are passive or whatever. That's why they're mean. So it's definitely just confronting it head on.
I think so too. And then, where it's appropriate to have compassion, because I think sometimes people are being mean because something's rough in their own life. I don't know that anybody wants to be the person that you want to avoid, but they might just really be, especially now, I find now it's such a time for compassion and kindness. I have no idea how hard all of this is on you. That might show up as you being mean to me.
Right.
So by me reaching out and just saying, are you all right? If there's something I can do to help you, because I'm just getting the sense that you're edgy, and then even just to say, I don't want to have this kind of a relationship with you. So if there's something that I've done, please make me aware. If there's something else that I can help you with, please also make me aware. Because then I think it puts it out there. Right. And then there's that consideration that it might be something beyond you that's causing them to act that way.
Most definitely. Totally agree with you.
Yeah. So thanks for that question. Keep them coming. She said, thank you. Awesome. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to cover here are your key strategies. So when we're leaving our call today, we've got some specific things that we can do. Like you said, look for allies. Right. In the organization, day one. And then talk about seek male allies and female allies.
Yeah, I think you find allies at every level of an organization, and that's male and female. I think often when we hear of allyship, we often think of, okay, as a female, I need to find a male ally. No, it could easily be a female ally.
Yeah.
finding, and again, having that conversation to say, this is my objective, and this is where I'm hoping you can help me. Is this something that you'd be willing to support my efforts on?
Yeah.
And having that conversation. And it's not that you're asking someone to do a huge task for you. Sometimes it could be, again, going back to that amplification, something as simple as that within your weekly sales meeting or sales call. So you could start small, but the key is starting, right? Taking action.
Yeah. And you're going to talk about mentoring in a minute, which I think is a nice segue to the allies. But then you talk about being an ally. That's your next tip, is to be an ally, the third bullet point down.
Mm-hmm. Well, being an ally, I mean, it's supporting others around us, and it's stepping into a leadership role, especially if you're earlier in your career. It's helping you become a leader yourself.
Yeah.
So finding those individuals that you can help support and advance their objectives, and plus it's just the right thing to do, right? I mean, don't we all have some gratification when we know that we're helping others and we're supporting others, and especially in a world today where we really organizations value that team spirit, that collaboration, that no individual is on their own. Let's work together, and finding ways to support other people within your organization is huge.
Yeah, I think that's true on every level. Like, I also have a daughter who's a rising senior this year. It's strange because they're not going back to school, and they're obviously disappointed for a lot of reasons. But one of the things that I was talking to her about is, like, what would it be like to be a freshman right now? You're going to this school, this place, you don't know anyone. Like, how can you and your fellow seniors just wrap your arms around these freshmen and make them feel like they're part of this community? And so she's thinking about ways that she can do that. And I think it's just important for you to, like, keep your eyes open to, like, who might, back to those networking events, like, who might feel like a fish out of water here, who's alone or on their phone, just like, I'll give this 5 minutes and then I'm out of here. So
what a great idea with your daughter, though. And again, I mean, isn't that a great way to help her start feeling like, yes, I'm a leader, I can help, I can support.
Yeah.
So that's kudos to you on that.
Yeah.
Nice mom move.
Thanks. Yeah. I think it's similar to women and anyone really who has grown in an organization. Like, you forget that you're a senior person. You forget that gives you privilege, or that gives you confidence on a level that somebody who's brand new to the organization or the team doesn't have. Right. So that sensitivity of, like, where am I at in this, like, comfort level? And I'm at the top of it because I'm a senior. I've been here, I have friends, I've got connections. How can I use that to, bring other people in the fold? And then it goes back to the whole, another Maya Angelou quote where she talks about how it's not about what you say or what you do, it's about how you make people feel. Right. And it's like, how are you making people feel like they belong somewhere? Right.
They don't remember what you said, but they remember how that you made them feel. And you're absolutely right. And that goes to a point I was going to make is, I'm sure we all remember someone that took the extra time out to embrace us and help us and support us.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making deposits, right? Those emotional deposits. And again, is that a relationship that you can leverage and utilize at a later date?
Yeah.
So everything works together.
Yeah.
But a lot of these things, it's just not happenstance. It's something that you really have to say, okay, I've got to plan for this.
I'm going to be really intentional about that. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
Taking a minute out of your otherwise fully packed agenda and to-do list, and to say, like a moment like this where people who are engaging in this conversation can ask themselves, like, well, where could I be an ally? How could I model this? Where could I, extend an arm and bring more people into that feeling of belonging in whatever group you're talking about.
Right.
So that they can think about it, because otherwise I think we're too busy to even notice. And
Right.
I think that's the big liability of being so darn overscheduled.
Right. Getting out of the day-to-day minutia, definitely.
Yeah. So you talk about taking advantage of mentorship and sponsorship programs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And what we're seeing, more and more organizations are developing employee resource groups, and quite often women's groups are one of the most populated. So
Yeah.
if they're there within your organization, we say participate, and then if there's not, figure out how to get one started, because it could be, again, an invaluable. And one of the things about ERGs that I think sometimes we overlook is the fact that because it's only for women, or because it's only for African Americans, or it doesn't mean that others are excluded.
Right.
It means that it's an opportunity for you to join and learn more about that particular segment of your work community, so that it's all about, hey, let's talk, let's get to know each other, because the more we talk, the more we know each other, the more we trust.
Yes.
And the more we all achieve together. So I think it's a limiting thought when you think, okay, well, I'm not Black, so I can't join this one. I'm not Jewish, so I can't join that one. No, it's a forum for people to share and talk, engage. So
you spoke earlier about having those conversations and being open to even difficult conversations. And I think if you could join the Out and Equal group, or the Asian Pacific Americans group, or the African Americans group, or whatever, that you could engage in those conversations and learn and really be an ally, because you understand what some of the challenges are. Like, I have had the privilege of working with the Asian Pacific Americans APA group at Comcast, and I had no idea that there were these challenges, or sometimes, the perception of a challenge, but very often a challenge. And these, so like in, again, generalization, but like hardworking, creative, smart, capable, eligible, willing group of people. And, what they needed were some tools, strategies, a lever to get them going. And I thought, gosh, I'm so grateful that they invited me to participate, because I had no idea that what some of their challenges were. So I totally agree with you. Like, joining ERGs of groups with which you don't naturally affiliate, but that you want to support and be an ally for.
Exactly.
It's a great idea. And then this last tip you have is about asking. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier, that, women don't ask, and it was in the vein of negotiation. And you also said about just like opportunities and whatever. Is there anything more you want to say about asking? Because I think that's so important.
No, I think with asking, it's a function of you deciding, yes, I'm going to make myself uncomfortable. Yes, I may get rejected, but that's okay. That's okay. And you just continue, and you persist, and you continue to ask. And eventually you will start getting the responses that you want.
Yeah.
And I think we could look at our political sphere and see that, yes, things are changing, that it will happen, but you gotta ask, you gotta put yourself out there.
Yeah, for sure. And then, when you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Always no.
So if we put ourselves to the Rhonda Moret test of like, do one thing a day. Thank you, Eleanor Roosevelt, for inspiring this, but you brought it to our attention today. Like, do one thing a day that scares you.
Right.
And ask. The thing that might scare you the most is to ask.
Right.
Know that people really want to help. I deeply believe that people are wired for generosity and willingness to give, but they don't really want to give unsolicited help. So requires that somebody ask for something, that ask for a referral or an opportunity or an invitation or whatever it is that they're asking for. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. So tell us where we can find you and the kinds of work that you could help organizations with.
Yeah, sure. Well, I can be reached on LinkedIn is one of my favorites. I spend a lot of time there. So it's and my last name is pronounced Moret, Moret. So it's Rhonda Moret on LinkedIn. We've got a couple different websites. Elevate for Her, that's our empowerment plans for women in leadership. And then we also have Elevated Diversity. And again, that's our division that handles diversity and inclusion training and consultancy and all that good stuff. So
excellent. And thank you. And you just said that you posted a LinkedIn article, I think this morning. So I'll check that out.
Yeah.
Add it to the notes. Everybody can indulge in that. Well, thank you for investing this time with us and for reminding us of some things and then teaching us new things and being a catalyst for the kind of progress that we all long to see.
Well, and thank you, Shannon. Again, I think you're doing a great job. I love the fact that you're using your platform to keep that conversation going. It's so incredibly important. So congratulations on taking that step and just helping to uplift us all. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Oh, my pleasure. We'll continue our partnership.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks. Bye, everybody.